Hey everybody, how's it going? It's Jordan Elsass. You might recognize me from the show Superman and Lois. You, my friends, are watching Completed It with Andy Burrows. It's your one-stop shop for everything pop culture related. Enjoy the show. I know I sure do.
Welcome, everybody, back to another episode of Completed It. I'm your host, Andy Burrows, and we are here with another movie review. We are here to review Mickey 17, but I haven't come alone. As you can see, Sasha isn't here today. He hasn't seen the movie yet, so can't review it. But we are joined by our good buddy across the pond from the Stu World Order. Stu, how are you, sir? How are things in the good old US of A?
It's not bad here. I was gonna say it's cold, but it's actually probably nicer today than it's been in a couple of days. I was outside, I was wearing my hoodie whenever I went to the movie theater today, and it's not that bad actually. It's a little chilly, but it's better than it often could be in early March in the upper Northeast.
Yeah, spring is on the way in the UK. I've been down the coast this weekend, and hopefully the nice weather is on the way. But Stu, we are here to talk Mickey 17. You saw it today, I believe. I went to the
Yes.
Warner Brothers viewing last Monday. Big shout out to Warner Brothers UK, who hooked myself up with some tickets to go and see it at Cineworld in Leicester Square. It was amazing to see a movie on probably one of the biggest screens, definitely in the UK. The IMAX screen in Leicester Square is the hub of London, Stu. Just so you know, it's literally one of our biggest. It's got like I think there's three movie theaters in approximately, I don't know, 30, 40 yards from each other. It's a big circle.
Oh
There's loads.
wow.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's IMAX. It's absolutely incredible. There's probably just over 1,000 people in the movie theater, all there courtesy of Warner Brothers UK. So big thanks to Warner Brothers UK for setting it up for me and my wife to go along and watch it. Obviously, Mickey 17, directed by Bong Joon-ho. Um, Robert Pattinson, Mark Ruffalo, Naomi Aki, just Ackle to name but a few. Stu, I think this is going to split opinion. Before we started recording, one of our friends in one of the WhatsApp groups I'm in said it was the most unwatchable movie he had ever seen of all time. Let's get into it. Stu, I think I've been speaking to a few people saying that I'm going to be reviewing this movie. I know a few people have seen it already. It come out on Friday here in the UK. What did you make of the movie?
I actually did enjoy it. I'm a big Bong Joon-ho fan. I have liked everything of his that I've seen to this point. I've seen Snowpiercer, Okja, Parasite, The Host. I've been a big fan of everything I've seen so far. I still haven't seen Memories of a Murder. I need to catch up on that whenever I get a chance. So this was my fifth experience with Bong Joon-ho, and for me, I think he's still a fairly can't miss director. I thought this was good. I thought it definitely had flaws. It's probably the worst of his movies that I've seen, but I think that says a lot more about the rest of his movies than it does about this one in particular for me.
Yeah, I mean, I'm going to be reading off my notes here. So it's basically Mickey Barnes and his friend Timo they get into some financial difficulties. They can't pay off loads of debt, so they sign up to a space program where basically they get sent into space, and Mickey signs up as an expendable. Basically, they run loads of experiments on him. They try and do all sorts to him, but the plus side is he can be recreated and he comes back to life pretty much straight away. All until they double it and Mickey 18 turns up and all hell breaks loose. But for me, I hated this movie. I'm not even gonna lie. I thought it was terrible, and I spoke to a few people this morning, and everyone's asking me they're like, "How are you going to review this movie?" The people that have seen it, but but it's good. I'm glad why I've got you on, Stu, because it is going to split opinion. I mean, Mark Ruffalo, I don't see him do bad movie. For me, this movie should have been a lot better than what it was. It seemed 137 minutes as well. I, for me personally, I don't think this movie knew what it wanted to be. Did it want to be a comedy? Did it want to be taken serious at parts, which when I thought they were trying to do? If you had to explain the plot to someone, Stu, how would you explain it?
What's the plot to this? I'll try to bumper sticker this as quickly as I can here so I can, I don't want to go into the entire
Yeah,
plot,
we're
but I'll
not going to
try
try
and
and
do a
give
quick.
too many spoilers, but we're going
Yeah,
to try and
yeah.
do our best to review
So
this movie without giving loads away.
So a man is signed up for an interstellar expedition to be an expendable, which is somebody who is recrafted or recreated after death. And along the way, they make their way to a new planet and they deal with the fauna on that planet and how his adaptability has to do with their survival on that planet and the meeting with the animals that already live there.
Yeah, I didn't, the animal part, I just didn't get that. I'm like, and then they invented the thing where they can talk to them at the end. And honestly, I just, this is one of them. Sometimes you just go to a movie and you just don't get it. And I'm like, nope. And usually I'm at about 40 minutes in. I'm like, do you know what? Let's give it some time. Some movies you think, okay, let's give it some time. I thought that when I first worked the first John Wick, I was thinking to myself, I don't know if I'm gonna like this. Now it's one of my favorite movie franchises of all time. But this one, 40 minutes passed, an hour passed, an hour and 10 minutes passed, and I can see everyone in the movie theater. They're all there with Warner Brothers UK, and a lot of people just look. Two guys down from me, they were on their phones. The woman to the left of my wife was just like distraught with herself that she had gone out on a cold Monday night to watch this movie. It was just for me, it didn't hit this movie. It did not hit it. When it tried to be funny, it wasn't. The storyline and the plot were pretty much non-existent for me. There was a plot, but there wasn't a plot, if that makes sense. A lot of people still were saying this movie was too long. Is that a correct assumption?
It's probably too long. There are aspects of it that there's a sub story about there being a drug substance that people on the spacecraft are taking, and that doesn't seem to go anywhere. There's a sub story about there is a girl on the craft. So Mickey has a girlfriend that he meets on the spacecraft, Nasha, and they have a really good relationship. And then halfway through the movie, after there's Mickey 17 and 18, Mickey 17 starts getting hit on by Kai, another girl on the ship, and that also doesn't really develop or go anywhere. Nasha and Kai have kind of a fight over it, and then it's just dropped, and the Kai character disappears until the very end of the movie. So there are aspects that definitely could have been trimmed from this, but I think a lot of the movie is, if you look at Junho's filmography, he does a lot of stuff about classism. He does a lot of stuff about imperialism. And he definitely, dating back to Okja, seems to be very pro animal rights and a very animal rights activist in his own right. And I think that definitely shines through again whenever you get to the creatures that are already inhabiting this planet. So I think he really has his niche of stories that he likes to tell. And I think this is another sci-fi version of him telling classism and animal rights activism stories.
What do you think this movie's done for Robert Pattinson?
I don't know if Robert Pattinson really needs anything done for him. I think he has fairly successfully removed himself from
Twilight.
being the vampire from Twilight, and he's established a good career for himself. I will say it definitely even more opened my eyes to his ability, because there is a vast difference between Robert Pattinson playing Batman and Robert Pattinson playing Mickey 17. They are not the same character whatsoever. They have completely different voices, completely different physical mannerisms. And I thought it was interesting to see him being able to play such disparate characters.
Does the same go for Mark Ruffalo? It's kind of the first time I've seen him in this kind of movie. Obviously, we all know him from the Marvel universe. For me, I thought his character was terrible. I thought the
He
whole
was
storyline with them and his wife, or whatever the hell she was, I think honestly, Stu, this for me, this movie is getting a 3 out of 10, and that's me being
Oh
generous.
wow. Okay.
That's me
I
being generous.
think with with Ruffalo, his character was clearly supposed to be a parody of Trump, and it was a bit
Mm.
heavy-handed with people wearing hats with his slogan on it, and him being I think Bong Joon-ho anticipated that Trump was not going to win re-election because it talks about how he's a two-time failed politician, and it's not how it went in the real world, but that is what it is. He's clearly meant to be a Trump parody, though, and like I said, it's a bit heavy-handed. It's really on the nose, and you can't miss it. And I think Ruffalo does okay. I haven't seen Poor Things, so I don't know how this compares to his performance in Poor Things, where he also apparently plays kind of a
Mm.
goofy bad guy. So he seems to be picking up a little shtick in movies where he's playing, the goofy kind of antagonist guy. I thought he was okay. I thought he was one of the weaker acting elements of the story. Toni Collette, I think, is always great, and I think she was great here. But for a character who was kind of just related to the Mark Ruffalo character.
Do you think it's kind of, has he been stereotyped kind of through his Marvel work to where he, no matter what he does now, me and Satch mentioned it on last week's show. We were talking about people that now get like typecast for what they do. So is he more, is he going to find it hard? We mentioned Pattinson there getting out of the Twilight thing. Is it going to be hard for Ruffalo to do anything and not be compared to what he does with Marvel?
I think it's definitely going to be hard. Yeah, I think that every actor has that. I mean, even really standout talented actors like Bryan Cranston. I mean, he's a great actor, but anytime I see Bryan Cranston, I'm like, oh, it's Walter White.
Mm.
And it's a discredit to how good of an actor he is. And I think it's a discredit to Ruffalo to look at him and go like, oh, it's the Hulk. But especially me as somebody who's a big MCU fan, I'm always going to look at Ruffalo, and the first thing I'm going to think is, oh, it's the Hulk. Good. I like the Hulk.
Yeah, no, I mean, I get it. I mean, if you had to choose two good things that you liked about this movie and two things that you really didn't like, what would they be?
Robert Pattinson's performance would be number one for me. I think he did really well. And very apparently opposed to you, I liked the plot. I liked the story. I liked the science fiction elements. And Junho has done this before when he adapted Snowpiercer. Snowpiercer is also kind of sci-fi, but this is even more sci-fi. They're literally in space on a spaceship. You don't get much more science fiction than that. So I liked him taking his sensibilities, especially in the wake of Parasite, which was such a grounded story and just dealt with this family in South Korea and didn't have any kind of fantastical elements to it whatsoever. He got to tell another Parasite-esque story, but he got to do it from a different point of view and cast it in space. And I'm sure he had a much bigger budget for this in the wake of winning the Academy Awards. So those would be the two things I liked, Pattinson and the story overall. If I had to find things I didn't like, it would be what I mentioned before. I didn't like that the drug storyline didn't seem to go anywhere. It was introduced that Timo ends up dealing drugs on this spacecraft, and they don't really seem to matter. You could take the drugs out of the story entirely, and other than adding into making Timo kind of a scuzzball, it doesn't really change anything. And then also, what was the other element that I said I didn't like? Oh, Kai, the Kai character coming in. And
Yeah, so a lot of people have tweeted about and on X mentioned you could literally take Kai out of the movie at any point,
oh yeah,
and no one would know.
yeah, no, there's no change if you take her out. And like I said, she kind of becomes a character halfway through the movie, exists very heavily in the movie for about 15 to 20 minutes, and then vanishes until the very last scene where you just see her sitting with somebody in the crowd at the end of the movie. And that's it. That's her entire character run. Yeah, you could definitely remove her and nothing of value is lost.
Yeah, no, I agree. I agree. Well, Stu, let's let you give it a rating. I've given it 3 out of 10, and that is a generous 3 out of 10. And some of the people were messaging me literally just before we started recording. Like I said, one guy put, the most boring movie ever. Andy, what do you think the plot was? I don't think there was one. Is one of the comments I've got here. So again,
Yeah.
but then I'm reading online. A lot of people did like it. I mean, is this why we like? Stu, you've been doing this a lot longer than I have, but you love your movies. Is this why we like movies? Because it will split opinion. And
Yeah,
I've spoken to people that go, I hate Star Wars, one of the most pointless
yeah.
franchise, and I look at them and I'm like, what? But that's why we like movies, right?
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I've been on the other end of it where I've actively disliked movies that other people have turned out to like. Like the one I will always go back to is I remember going with my wife and my sister-in-law and brother-in-law, and we went to see Midsommar.
Hmm.
And we all came out of Midsommar going, that was the stupidest piece of crap I have ever seen in my life. And then you look and people love that movie and it bewilders me. I will never understand people who enjoy or think there's anything smart being said in Midsommar. But that's me. I've definitely been on both sides of this. And for this one, this movie worked for me. So but it's also, like I said, it's probably the weakest of the Bong Joon-ho movies that I've seen. I would probably give it like a 6 or a 6.5 out of 10.
Okay. Okay. Well, there we have it.
Like
We
I
haven't
didn't
given.
love it,
No,
but I liked it.
I definitely didn't love it. I definitely didn't like it. I hated it. I thought it was terrible. It cost me nearly $60. Well, it cost us $60 to get to London. Watch the movie. It was, no, for me, no, Stu. It was just
No, it's
not.
I get it. I get it.
Right.
It's perfectly fine. That's I never get upset when people have a different opinion than me. And
I,
especially if people don't like something that I like, I'm very accepting of that. So I
yeah.
get it. I get it. And you're right. It's a long movie. So
Oh,
if it doesn't hit with you, it's going to be even worse because of how long it is and how long it feels like you were sitting there. For me, I'm certainly not going to say the time like flew by or anything, but I was enjoying myself, so I didn't really notice the runtime,
mm,
as it were.
no, yeah, no, that's fair enough, my friend. That's fair enough. Well, we've given our review. I hope we haven't. If anyone wants to go and see it, go and see it. Contact us at Completed It Pod on X, and you can let us know what you think. But Stu, what have you got coming up in the next few weeks, my friend?
Definitely got more episodes of the show coming out. I am currently recorded up through May 2nd, so I've got tons of episodes coming out. I can't even remember what the next ones are, but new episodes of the Stew World Order release on the 2nd, the 12th, and the 22nd of every month. So you can remember it this way. My wife hates this, but I came up with it as a slogan. It's Stew on the Twos.
It's going to be stuck in my head now. But Stu, it was good to sit down and quickly chat about Mickey 70. Like I say, go and see it, people. It'd be interested to get your feedback, see what you think. For me, no, this movie really didn't work. But then I quite enjoyed Have you seen Mufasa yet, Stu?
I have not.
I
I'm
quite
not a big fan
enjoyed
of the
it.
CGI Lion King stuff. If they had made the Mufasa movie but made it hand-drawn cell animation from the 90s, like the original Lion King,
Hmm.
I might have seen it, but I'm just not interested in the CGI Lion King. It looks too uncanny valley for me.
Okay. Anything else coming out that you're looking forward to seeing just before we wrap it up?
You know what? There were a bunch of trailers that I saw that all looked pretty interesting. I'm trying to think. I think next week is Novocaine and something else. And Novocaine looks dumb as hell, but it has a surprisingly high early Rotten Tomatoes score. So maybe there's a lot more to it than I think there's going to be. Yeah, it actually looks like March. Like I said, I'd have to sit down and try and remember all the trailers that aired before Mickey 17, but I was into the trailers that I saw. So I'll be at the movie theater every weekend for the next several weekends.
Yeah, I think the next one I'm going to go and see a film called Marching Powder, which stars Danny
Okay,
Dyer.
I've heard of that.
Yeah, he's a big. He was a soap star over here turned into a movie star. Really, Danny Dyer. It's the same director that what have you seen Football Factory? It's the same director from Football Factory, and everyone loves Football Factory in the UK. If you haven't seen it, I reckon if it revolves around soccer hooliganism in the late 80s and 90s. It's the same director that's done Marching Powder. I'm going to go and see that probably on Wednesday. And then there's the new Pier. What's the one coming out on Friday? Everyone talk amongst themselves while I get my phone up. There's Piers Brosnan. What's the Piers Brosnan one out this Friday? It is.
Oh, is that Black Bag?
Black Bag looks really
Yes.
good. You know,
Yeah, Fassbender and Kate Blanchett.
Yeah,
that looks really
so
interesting.
I think I'm going to go and see that as well. So when you've seen that, Stu, give us a shout, and we can probably jump back on here. Sasha, hopefully
All
we'll
right.
go and see. We'll go and see it. But anyone that wants to check us out, you can find us at Completed It Pod on X, or just go into YouTube and type Completed It Pod, one word, and you will find us on there. We sat down with an actual Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle this past week. Stu, I don't know if you've seen it yet. It was really, really good to go to interview the guy that was in the Raphael suit from the original Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles movie. That was a really, really cool thing. We've got some cool stuff coming up. We've got touch wood. We've got someone from Friends, the TV series Friends, coming on the show, and we've got Tom Arnold coming up in 2 weeks. He is coming on the show just to talk all things movies with us and what it was like to work with Arnie Schwarzenegger and etc. etc. But Stu, pleasure to chat with you again, my friend. Enjoy your week, enjoy the movies that you've got coming up, and keep doing what you're doing, brother.
Thank you so much. You too, sir.
No problem. We'll be back later on in the week with more episodes of Completed It. But till then, everybody, this has been another episode of Completed It. We have just done that. Till next time, stay safe.